Imagine you are sailing in the middle of the ocean. It is the dead of night. There is no moon. The sky above you is pitch black. And then, without warning, the entire sea around your ship begins to glow. Not sparkle, not flash. Glow steadily, silently, stretching from one horizon to the other, as far as your eyes can reach. The water beneath you looks like a plain of white snow. The ocean looks solid, like molten lead, like the end of the world. Now here is the thing that makes this even more disturbing. For over 400 years, sailors described this exact scene in their logs, in their diaries, in letters home. And for most of those 400 years, science simply did not believe them. This is the story of the Milky Sea. And today, we are going to find out what it really is, why it was ignored for so long, and why what we now know about it might be one of the most important ocean discoveries of our time. Before we dive in, if you are someone who believes the ocean still holds secrets that no one has fully explained yet, you are in exactly the right place. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment telling us what you think is out there in the deep that science has not figured out yet. We read every single one. Now let us go back to where this all begins. The year is 1049. A captain named Kempthorne is sailing a vessel called the Muzaffar through the Arabian Sea. It is January, the night is dark, and then he sees something that stops him completely. He writes in his ship's log that the ocean looked like a boundless plain of snow, that the sea appeared so dense and so solid that his ship looked like it was forcing its way through molten lead. He did not know what he was seeing. He had no explanation, but he wrote it down because that is what sailors do. They record what they see, even when what they see makes no sense. What Captain Kempthorne witnessed that night was what sailors had been calling the Milky Sea for generations. And he was not alone. In 1854, the captain of an American clipper ship called the Shooting Star was sailing off the coast of Java, Indonesia. He described the entire ocean as a plain covered with snow. He wrote that the sky appeared as black as if a storm was raging, yet there was not a cloud above him. He wrote that the sea had turned to phosphorus, and the heavens were hung in blackness, and the stars seemed to be going out one by one. He thought, in those moments, that he was witnessing the end of the world, that something was preparing to annihilate everything. That level of terror, from an experienced sea captain, should tell you something about what this phenomenon looks like to the human eye in real time. It was not beautiful to them. It was not magical. It was terrifying. It was wrong. Because the ocean is not supposed to glow, and yet it keeps doing it. The records go on and on. In 1967, an officer on a ship called the SS Ikshan was sailing through the Arabian Sea when the entire sea from horizon to horizon took on a steady phosphorescent glow. He wrote that the whole sea was several shades lighter than the sky. He described how when he looked down into the water, it was almost impossible to focus his eyes. He felt vertigo. He said it could easily have convinced any superstitious sailor that their ship would fall off the edge of the world before morning. Then in 1976, the captain and third officer of a vessel called the MV Westmoreland entered a large area of bioluminescence, so bright and so flat that neither white caps nor swell waves could be distinguished from what appeared to be a perfectly flat, glowing sea. They said it glared brilliant and bright green, and they could see no boundaries of it on the horizon in any direction. These are not legends. These are not ghost stories. These are official ship logs, documented, dated, recorded accounts from trained professionals sailing the ocean in the course of their work. And still, for most of history, mainstream science treated these accounts the way the world treats most things it cannot explain. It ignored them. It called them exaggerations. It filed them away under maritime folklore, right next to sea monsters and singing mermaids. That dismissal, that refusal to take seriously what sailors were reporting, is one of the most remarkable examples in modern history of a real natural phenomenon being buried under scientific skepticism. Because here is what is astonishing. There are fewer than 400 known written records of the Milky Sea in all of recorded history. In 400 years, that is one of the rarest documented natural phenomena on the face of the planet. Now, what is actually happening when sailors see this glow? What is turning the ocean into a luminous plain that stretches beyond the horizon? For a long time, the short answer was that nobody knew. But the first real scientific clue came in 1985, when a United States Navy research vessel was conducting a broad study of marine bioluminescence in the Arabian Sea and, by pure chance, sailed directly into a Milky Sea event. The scientists on board were equipped to collect samples. They pulled water from the glowing surface and took it back to their instruments. What they found was a specific kind of bioluminescent bacteria, a microscopic organism called Vibrio havae. This tiny bacterium is capable of producing its own light through a chemical reaction in its body. And the hypothesis that emerged from those 1985 samples was extraordinary in its implications. The researchers suggested that Milky Seas occur when algae colonies bloom and die at the ocean's surface. When those dead algal cells rupture, they release lipids, essentially nutrients. And those nutrients fuel an explosion of Vibrio havae bacteria. The bacteria multiply so furiously, in such enormous numbers, that they reach a concentration dense enough to produce a continuous, unbroken, horizon-to-horizon glow. Think about that for a moment. The ocean glowing across 40,000 square miles, visible from space, caused by bacteria so small you cannot see a single one with the naked eye. That is the Milky Sea, not magic, not a hallucination, not a silo statale. A biological event of almost incomprehensible scale happening in the dark of the Indian Ocean, largely invisible to human civilization, understood by almost no one. And here is the part that should make your jaw drop. Even after those 1985 samples, even after science finally had physical evidence from inside a Milky Sea, no research vessel has ever deliberately reached one in time to study it, not once. In nearly 40 years since that chance encounter, every single attempt to get to a Milky Sea with scientific equipment has failed. Because these events are rare, they are remote, and they happen fast. By the time a ship can get there, it is often already gone. This is the point in the story where someone comes along and changes the game. And that someone is Stephen Miller, an atmospheric scientist who in the early 2000s was working for the United States Naval Research Laboratory. For the Navy, marine bioluminescence is not just a scientific curiosity. It is a tactical problem. A glowing patch of ocean can outline a submarine and make it visible to anyone watching. Miller was working on whether satellite sensors could detect bioluminescence from orbit. Most displays were too small and too brief to register from space, but Milky Seas were different. If the accounts were accurate, these events were enormous, potentially visible from hundreds of miles above the Earth. Miller searched and found a description of a Milky Sea from 2001 when a British merchant vessel called the SS Lima was sailing through the Arabian Sea and found itself surrounded by a glowing ocean stretching in every direction. Miller searched the satellite archives for that date and that location, and there it was, a glowing smudge in the satellite imagery, rotating counterclockwise with the local ocean currents. Science had seen the Milky Sea from space. It was real. It had always been real. This is a good moment to pause and drop your thoughts in the comments. What else do you think is out there in the ocean that science still has not taken seriously? The deep sea is the least explored place on Earth. We genuinely do not know what is down there. Let us talk about it. Now jump forward to 2021. Miller and a team of colleagues published research showing that the visible infrared imaging radiometer suite, which is a sensor aboard modern weather satellites, could detect Milky Sea events reliably. Reviewing nearly a decade of satellite data from 2012 to 2021, they found 12 separate Milky Sea events across the Indian Ocean and the far western Pacific. Each one was invisible during the day, confirming it was not reflected light from some other source. Each one persisted across multiple nights, drifting with surface currents, and the largest of those events covered an area of roughly 40,000 square miles. To put that in perspective, that is larger than the entire state of Kentucky. A glowing ocean the size of a US state, driven by bacteria, and nobody on land even knew it was happening. Then in 2025, a doctoral student named Justin Hudson at Colorado State University published something that could change everything about how we study this phenomenon. Working alongside Professor Stephen Miller, Hudson compiled the most comprehensive database of Milky Sea sightings ever assembled. 415 documented occurrences spanning the last 400 years. Drawing from ancient ship logs, accounts published in the Marine Observer Journal over an 80-year period, and modern satellite data, this database is the first of its kind in 30 years. And what it revealed was striking. Nearly 60% of all known Milky Sea events occur in just one place, the Northwest Indian Ocean, near Somalia, Socotra, and Yemen. That is not a coincidence. That region experiences upwelling, where strong winds push cold, nutrient-rich water toward the surface, creating exactly the conditions where algae can bloom and bacteria can explode. The database also revealed a statistical link between Milky Sea events and two of the world's most powerful climate patterns, the Indian Ocean Dipole and the El Niño Southern Oscillation. Both of those systems drive massive shifts in global weather, ocean temperatures, and biological activity, which means the Milky Sea may not be a random event at all. It may be connected to the largest scale movements of energy and life across the entire planet. And here is where this story opens into something even bigger and more unsettling. We still do not know what the Milky Sea means for the ecosystems around it. The Vibrio havae bacteria, believed to be behind it, is a known pest species. It can kill fish. It can devastate crustaceans. It can damage entire fisheries. The Arabian Sea and the waters around Indonesia, where these events are most common, are also among the most biologically diverse and economically important fishing regions on Earth. If Milky Sea events are increasing, if they are tied to warming ocean temperatures and shifting climate patterns, then what are the consequences? Are they a sign of a healthy ocean? A distressed one? Is the ocean literally glowing as a warning sign? Scientists today will tell you plainly and honestly that they do not know. There is still only one known photograph of a Milky Sea taken from sea level. One photograph, from 2019. From a private yacht that happened to be in the right place at the right time. That is the entire visual record from the ocean's surface of an event that has been reported by sailors for over 4 centuries. One photo, and hundreds of ships full of terrified, bewildered, awestruck witnesses. There is something deeply humbling about that. Here we are in 2025, with satellites orbiting the Earth, with submersibles that can dive to the deepest trenches, with gene sequencing technology that can identify a bacterium from a single drop of water, and we have never deliberately studied the Milky Sea in the field, not once, because it is too rare, too remote, and too unpredictable. But Hudson's database is designed to change that. The goal is to use that 400 years of data to build a predictive algorithm, to tell researchers not after the fact but in advance, before it happens, where and when the next Milky Sea is likely to appear, so that a ship can be waiting, instruments ready, samples prepared, because the answers locked inside a Milky Sea could reshape our understanding of how carbon and nutrients cycle through the global ocean. They could help explain how bacteria behave at enormous scales. They could even tell us something about how early life on Earth first produced light in the dark of an ancient sea. This is not just a curiosity. This is foundational science hiding behind centuries of dismissed sailor stories. If you found this as extraordinary as we did, share this video right now with someone who loves the ocean or the unexplained. The Milky Sea is the kind of story that makes you realize the world is still full of genuine mystery, not the kind that gets solved with a quick search, the kind that requires centuries of ignored witnesses and a handful of determined scientists to even begin to understand. At Benthic Files, that is exactly the kind of story we live for, the deep truth that has been sitting right under our noses, or in this case, right under the hull of a ship, for 400 years waiting for someone to take it seriously. So here is the question we want you to answer in the comments below. If you were sailing through the night and the entire ocean around your ship started glowing from horizon to horizon, what would you think was happening? Be honest, because even knowing what we know now, even knowing it is bacteria and bioluminescence and climate patterns. Standing on the deck of a ship, with the sea glowing white beneath a black sky, with the stars going out above you, it would still feel like the end of the world. And maybe, just maybe, those sailors 400 years ago were not wrong to be afraid. Maybe they were seeing something the ocean has been trying to say for a very long time, and we are only now, finally, starting to listen.